In this video, I'm going to share 6 things that you need to know as a new school counselor. And trust me, I've been doing this for a very long time. And if you follow my advice, you're sure to be successful during your first year. And stay tuned for 2 special bonus tips that are the absolute most important parts of this video, but you got to watch it all the way to the end in order to hear it. Tips 1 and 2 go hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly, or 2 other things that go hand in hand. I don't know, that was the first thing that popped into my mind. One of the most important things you want to do in the beginning is create 3 SMART goals for your school counseling program. You know, your SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And you know I'm going to give you an example, so follow along. By May of 2025, the school counselor will reduce the number of discipline referrals for disruptive behavior in grades 6 through 8 by 20% by implementing check-in, check-out systems, individual counseling sessions, and small groups. The counselor will also monitor data to make sure that these goals are met. After you create these 3 SMART goals, it's a great idea to sit down with your admin team and discuss it. If you go to schoolcounselor.org, ASCA has a template for SMART goals that you can use to frame your conversation with your school leader. In some school districts, they call this an annual agreement or principal agreement, but it's basically where you're sitting down and discussing your goals with the admin team so they are aware of what you're doing. This increases collaboration, and it also makes sure that your principal is aligned with what you're doing and your role. And you're probably wondering, how do I create these SMART goals? Well, the first thing you need to do is look at data. Now, data may seem like a scary word for school counselors, but I'm gonna walk you through it. So when you're creating your SMART goals, consider attendance, discipline data, and you can look at in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, classroom referrals, all those different things. And if you don't have access to that data, all you have to do is ask your admin. I'm sure that they have some type of system that they're using to document those things. Let's say that last year your school had a high number of conflicts or referrals for inappropriate behavior such as fighting or horseplay. So you want to look at that data so you can create specific interventions to target that specific need. Or let's say you had a high number of students who exhibited inappropriate physical touch, and that can look like a number of things. So you can create lessons on boundaries and how to resolve conflict respectfully. This is how you use data to create your school counseling program, your lessons, your interventions, your events, and your programs. You can also look at academic data such as retention data. So if you had some students who were left behind, or who failed a grade, or even had to go to summer school, you can meet with those students and make sure that they have the right skills, the executive functioning skills and things that they need in order to be successful the next school year, such as teaching them good study habits, how to be organized, how to take notes, how to ask for help when they need it, all those things. Data doesn't have to be a scary word, and as a school counselor, you have to be familiar and know how to use data for your program. You could have amazing ideas and go in and create these programs and lessons, and your students may not even receive them because it may not be something that they need. That's why it's a great idea at the beginning of the year to send out a needs assessment to students. Now keep in mind, I usually don't send needs assessments out until about maybe September or October. This gives the students a chance to get settled and the teachers a chance to get settled and get into a routine before you can do anything like that. That's when you start taking that needs assessment data and you create your interventions. And I'm gonna go a little bit more into detail about that in the next tips. And if you would like to know more details about how to use data for your program, comment the word data because I'm gonna create another video for that as part of this new school counselor summer series. Now that we've created our 3 SMART goals and we've looked at data, let's create our plan of attack. On your mark, get set, go. You're gonna create your year at a glance. A year at a glance is very simple. All it is where you document the events, the lessons that you wanna teach this school year, character traits that you wanna implement, the programs, the events that you wanna host, all those things. And if it's too scary to do the whole school year, then do a semester. One tool that you can use in order to create your year at a glance is the ASCA Awareness Calendar. Once you pull this up, you'll get an idea of the monthly and weekly and even daily themes that you can host throughout this school year. Looking at this awareness calendar, it has a lot of different events. I would say pick 2 to 3 monthly events that you can focus on. For example, I love October because October has a lot of things that you can do. I would focus on Bully Prevention Month, Red Ribbon Week, and if you want to throw something else out there, that's you can focus on too. But the goal is to not do so much all at once because it can get overwhelming. So if you choose 2 to 3, that's pretty safe. The next thing that you want to do, and it goes back into one of the earlier tips in this video, is make sure that you share this plan with your admin. It's a great idea to meet with your school leader at least once a month, especially at the beginning of the month, so you can share all of the details and plans of the things that you have planned for that month. School leaders need to be kept in the loop, especially if you're planning school-wide events, because there may be some things that you possibly have overlooked as a brand new school counselor, or they may even be able to give you some insight or connect you with people who will be able to help you out with those things, such as the planning process, getting things together. You're not going to be able to do everything at once, so I would accept all the help that you can get. When you meet with your school leader, it's a great idea to have a visual aid. So you can create like a very simple presentation, like on PowerPoint or Google Slides, or even share a detailed agenda. This helps you to be organized. It helps you to come across as being a professional. And this will also show your admin team that you're a collaborator and that you're a team player. This next tip is one of my favorites. Observe, learn, and then implement. I saw a post by one of my favorite creative duos, the Counselor Accents team, Laura and Kim. If you're not familiar with them, they have a podcast. They're pretty awesome. They're really funny. One thing that they said on one of their recent posts was, in your first year, you should be an eagle. You should go in and observe how things are functioning, observe the way the students and teachers interact with each other, make note of the daily schedule and how the day flows, and just all those other things that you want to pay attention to. Don't be a bull and come in and destroy and run all over things that are already set in place. You want to be able to enhance the things that are already going on in your school. And the only way you can do that is by observing and taking notes. I always say in the first couple months, make a lot of notes, make a lot of observations, visit classes. You may have a ton of fresh ideas coming into the gate, and I'm not trying to discourage you and say that you can't do any of those things, but before you start making big changes, I always say come in and get a lay of the land and observe how things are functioning already. That way you can see what's going well, what's not working well, and what you can do in order to make a difference in your school. I would also strongly suggest you review and observe systems, procedures, and routines that the school implements already. So again, such as the daily schedule, the monthly events or assemblies that are already planned by the admin team, all these things that are going on already, so that you can get a good idea before you start implementing anything new. Then you can start implementing your programs. But again, look at the data first, observe how things are going, and then start implementing change. What you don't want to do is come in and start planning all of these events and you get overwhelmed because you haven't even learned the basic functions of your role and what you're supposed to do on a day-to-day basis, or what is expected of you from your school leader or your district. You gotta crawl before you walk. If you start doing too much, you will become stressed and you'll want to quit within the first 3 years of school counseling. One thing about the role of a school counselor is no one can define it but you. The role of a school counselor looks different in every school, state, and district. And part of that is a blessing because we can be creative, but it's also a little bit confusing in the beginning. And so if you try to plan everything and try to do everything all at once, especially in your first year, you're going to become stressed, you're gonna wanna quit, and you're not gonna get a chance to enjoy this beautiful profession. It takes time and patience to establish yourself as a school counselor, learn the role, and then become comfortable with your own counseling style and develop your own techniques. Again, I stress the fact, do not try to do everything all at once. For example, when it comes to small groups, although you've seen all these cute ideas on Pinterest or these other counselors on Instagram or Facebook or even TikTok, I would highly suggest that you hold off on starting small groups in the beginning, especially because you're still learning the functions of your job. Small groups take a very special skill set and it takes a lot of knowledge and planning to do, on top of individual counseling sessions, on top of completing classroom counseling lessons. If you try to do everything all at once without getting good at one thing, you're not gonna be good at anything. It's always better to focus, do something well, gain those skills, and then move on to the next thing. So again, I wouldn't even start certain things like small groups until you're ready, and I typically don't even start mine until October or November. And if you're a seasoned school counselor, or veteran as I call, when do you typically start doing your small groups? I'm just curious. So I'm trying to save you some frustration, because in the very first year, everything is gonna be stressful. You're gonna feel like everything's coming at you all at once. And if you get too stressed out, you're gonna neglect your physical or your mental well-being, which means you may stop exercising, you may come home and you just may be exhausted and you won't have time to spend with your family, your friends, your pets, or anyone else, your significant other. You can avoid all those things if you set strong boundaries in the beginning. One of the boundaries that I set for myself in the very first year is I didn't answer any emails after hours, and I didn't take any work phone calls unless it's an absolute emergency, and that includes text messages. And I will tell you why. My first year, I learned this the hard way. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was 9 o'clock at night. I was in bed and I decided to open my email, my work email, and I read a message from an angry parent. And it made me so upset because one, I couldn't respond to it in the moment. I couldn't address it. And I'm sitting up here playing this over and over in my mind, thinking about what I'm gonna say to this parent the next day. So I wasn't able to go to sleep. So I have learned that I have to set a hard boundary for myself, and I do not check emails outside of work hours. But that's just one of my boundaries. You have to come up with your own. And this is another thing that I would say as far as a boundary. Take your mental health days or use your sick days. You're not gonna be any good to anyone or yourself if you go to work stressed out or sick. So if you have sick days or mental health days, take them. I wouldn't say take them like all at once, but take them here and there because you're not gonna do any good if you go to work and you're not your best. Now let's talk about the bonus tips. So I'm glad you made it this far to the end. Ask questions and give yourself grace to learn. No one is going to put more pressure on you than you. Listen to that again. Nobody is going to put more pressure on you than you. You're going to think that you're a failure in the beginning, and you're going to be very hard on yourself. Trust me, a lot of school counselors experience this. They experience imposter syndrome when they're looking at other school counselors who are doing amazing things on Pinterest or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or all these social media platforms. But it's not fair to compare your year 0 or your year 1 to their year 5, 10, or whatever. You have to learn how to develop your own counseling techniques and be comfortable with your own knowledge, experience, and education. You will not know everything all at once. No matter how good your school counseling program was in grad school or how prepared you think you are, you're going to be in a situation where you don't have all of the answers, and it's okay. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to tell someone, I don't know that right now, but I will get back to you later. And you have to build and utilize your network support. For example, if you were assigned a mentor by your district, call them, email them, or text them and ask them questions. And if you don't have a mentor, join Facebook groups with other school counselors. There are tons for all 3 grade levels. Or just simply reach out to someone at a neighboring school or someone else in the district. Trust me, someone will be willing to help you. And if you have questions, you can always message me on Instagram at CounselingwithMrB. If you make mistakes, give yourself grace and have a growth mindset. You're gonna call a student by the wrong name, you're gonna forget a deadline, or you may have a classroom counseling lesson or individual session that didn't go as well as you planned. These things happen. Take it all in stride, learn something from it, and bounce back. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't feel bad. Simply learn from the mistake, implement change, and do something different. There's so much that you're gonna learn in the first year, and you have to have the right perspective to be open to change and growth. Don't suffer in silence. Again, ask questions if you need to, even if you feel like you have to ask the same question over and over again. Until you have a good understanding, don't feel embarrassed. There is no stupid question. Comment below, what was your favorite tip from this video? So now let's talk about the second resource, especially if you're a brand new counselor. I created an amazing resource to help you be 100% ready and prepared for your first school year. And it's called the New School Counselor's Guide, 5 Essential Tips for Success. When you get your copy, you'll get a Meet the Counselor presentation template that you can edit, where you can share your role as a school counselor and how you support students, staff, and families. You'll get newsletter templates that you can edit and you can send out for a Meet the Counselor introduction or a monthly newsletter of what's going on with your program. You'll get a 30, 60, 90-day plan with a checklist of the things that you should do to start off strong. You'll get a year-to-glance program planning template, and you'll get a SMART goal template so you can create your 3 program goals, and many, many more tips and resources that'll help you be successful in your first year as a school counselor. In order to get your copy, go to my website, CounselingwithMrB.com. The link will be in the description below, or you can simply type it in on the screen. Trust me, if you follow the specific steps and strategies in this guide, you will be set up for your first year as a school counselor and you will be successful. You can avoid some of the pitfalls, trials, and tribulations that you would experience if you didn't have everything at your fingertips. And I mentioned earlier about building your network. I have a Facebook group called the Learning Lab. Join my Facebook group and you can ask questions, you can network with other school counselors, and you can get some resources in the files section. And if you need more tips on how to be successful in your first year as a school counselor, check out some of my other videos, especially in my playlist, the New School Counselors Playlist for Success. The link will be in the description section below.